Growing up, I was never big on football. It felt too marvelous and dangerous for our narrow gullies, filled with dust and debris, pulse, breath, and dreams. Every declaration of love for the game, especially to the boys, would turn into a trivia contest just the same. Can you tell me the name of the player that won Player of the Match 5 times in a tournament and scored 3 goals in the 1950 World Cup, 45 years before you were born, 3 years after your country was free and cut up like cake, 5 years after World War II ended, where 2.2 million Indian troops and 5.5 million Arabs fought and died for empire while our narrow gullies lived. To become a war zone, to become smaller than the dust and debris, than the pulse, breath, and dreams, parched with not a tree to drink from the rain, because our land and forest disappeared just the same, and yet the darkness remained. There was no telling the boys that you love football, because then they would tell you about how it was special, unlike any other game, and always fair in its name because it was a man's game. It got too much sweat and teeth, it got too much chest thumping, it got too much heart pumping, too much violent crumping. They would tell you that it can be really confusing to watch sometimes, and all you have to do is pay attention and kick. It's an offside. We're back in our childhood home. My father's heart is covered in a shell the color of manhood and loneliness. When touched, it became the teeth on my mother's neck, deep, wet underarms to her lips, his loud mouth. A battleground my mother thought she had escaped, only for her to realize that she was too close to the opponent line. The way she moved, her easy stride, her sharp hurt, her hesitant withdrawal, fragrant with the smell of her father's fruit orchards that comes and goes like waves. It comes and goes like first-generation immigrants. It comes like guilt and goes away like an empty ritual. My mother learned about borders when my father shut the front door. She is a refugee in her own home, and she thinks that it is a promise of a return. And kick, it is a foul. I'm sitting in our cramped living room turned bedroom turned kitchen watching the World Cup finals. In one field with 3 possible outcomes, you would have to bring a heart that is not afraid of being split into 2 because one wrong move would turn a footballer into an immigrant. The invasion on bodies only holds the heart a hostage. The smell of ghee and pakoras choked the vent that turned a dark, deep brown, the color of defeat. My father dips the pakoras into ketchup served in a fine china bowl as he talks to me about the wisdom of learning a colonial tongue. The first 4 words he memorized: in God we trust. The 5th, slut. My mother, who does not understand English, sips tea from glass made of steel. And kick, the referee flashes a yellow card. I hold his hands to show how ruins make a home out of wrist bones. He holds his tongue, the casket of truth, afraid to spill its light. His gaze holds mine like an old picture glued together with the sting of hidden wounds. He holds my map-shaped wounds like his favorite book that's missing the first and last pages. I hold my longings in the blank sky of my mind, in the tangled roots of my hair, gripping the rice paddy fields between my palms, and settlers burning them as they turn into a dense ochre, a violent yellow, an afternoon that's mellow and only slightly skeptical of dust. A mustard yellow that stains my beginnings like turmeric, the color of starvation, the color of plague, the color of memory, and leaves my heart holding my head turned upward and burning. Between the lungs is the fire that burns like amber, and between the eyes is the rain. And kick, it's a red card. I'm just unlearning images I've learned to attach to words like cock, clit, breast, rest, chest, the west, rest, oppressed. I'm breaking them open like coconut and letting them swim in my ocean of habit like red tropical fish. And I am becoming the water that freely flows, the west wind that on the rest blows. My father's regret that grows, my mother's guilt that shows, the tongue that cuts into other tongues, becoming a tongue-soft blow, the inherited tongue, the wounded tongue, a tongue divided into two and a border patrol running in the middle. The prayers I hope to taste in her, wanting to be the barbaric tongue inside the mouth of her civilized heart, when all I could think of was, in fact, how they always take away the most vulnerable to fight their battles, who disappear like bruises, but nothing is ever healed, a nameless, faceless, countryless tongue. And kick, kick, kick. There is no poetry in conquest. It's as red as blood, it's as red as the speed of violence, it's as red as hands.